Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session on our series for WTM IWD. So we've had two sessions so far, and this is the third one. So today we're going to be covering how to integrate Gemini and AI into Android. So we had a couple of other sessions scheduled for today, but unfortunately our speakers could not make it, and so we will communicate on the day that we will be having the same session so that it can well equip you for the upcoming hackathon. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Philomena Mbura. I'm a data scientist. With me here, I have Kemi, WTM ambassador, and also we have Jackie, who's going to be our speaker for today. So for the first session, we did if you're a fruit, which fruit would you be? For the second session, we did if you are an animal, which animal would you be? So for today, we're going to do if you're a cartoon, which cartoon would you be and why? So I'll just give you a few seconds to just comment on the chat, or even through the session, you can just feel free to comment and say which cartoon you would be and why. For me, I've tried to think of mine, but I think I would, and I couldn't get an answer. I feel like I'm such a huge fan of cartoons, and so I have so many in my mind. But then the first one that popped in my mind was Mulan, and I don't know why, but I would just want to be Mulan. But yeah. So welcome to today's session. I'll welcome Jackie to take the stage. And yeah, Jackie, the floor is yours. And please, I'm waiting for the answers on the cartoon in the chat. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Philomena and Kimi, for having me in today's session. I am Jackie Gitao, as Philomena said, and I'm an Android developer and a WTM ambassador. And today I'll be taking you through how to integrate Gemini AI in Android applications by showcasing a demo app that I've done. It's something basic, so yeah, I hope you learn from it. So to start us off, I'll go through some slides which I've prepared just to explain a few things, and then I'll jump into the demo to explain what I've done. Okay, so I'll go to my slides. Slideshow. Okay, so today's session is on integrating Gemini AI in Android applications. So what I'll be covering is a few prerequisites that you need to get started and some common use cases, how to set up your projects, and some Gemini models that we have that you can use depend when you want to create or integrate the model to perform a specific role in your application. So the prerequisites are you need to have the latest Android Studio version. Currently, we have Android Studio Iguana, which was just declared as stable. And we also have another one called Android Studio Jellyfish, which is on Canary right now. It's the latest preview. We also need the API model, no, the Gemini model can only be integrated in Android applications that have API level 21 and above. Some common use cases that you can use to integrate the model is when you want to create, say, some intelligent chatbots and also some virtual assistants. During, I think, 2 weeks ago when I think it was last week, Ngesa covered a part where he said there's a way you can train the model to give you like specific responses or prompts. So I think you can utilize the studio to generate some prompts in case you'd want to have, say, to integrate a virtual assistant in your application. For project setup, you need to install the Gemini or the generative AI dependency or SDK as a dependency, and you also need to create an API key from Google AI Studio. And you also need to add the API key in a secrets.property files or local.property files so you can abstract it from the public view. And also a few models. Okay, we only have two models for now, which is Gemini Pro, which you can use whenever you want to create text-based or text-only inputs on your application, or when you want to achieve text-only imp- inputs in your application, as in when you want to interact with the model. And then the Gemini Vision Pro, you can use it when you want to generate response from a text and an image input. Yeah, and these are some of the resources that I used. This Gemini Quick Start documentation that we have, and it highlights mostly what I've talked about. There's the prerequisites part, there's the project setup part, and also there's this SDK that you need to install as a dependency in your build.gradle file. And also, this is how you have to instantiate the generative model in your application so that you can be able to interact with it. And also the model names, like I said, this Gemini Pro, which you can use when you want to generate to interact with the model by giving it only text only inputs. And there's this provision, Gemini provision, when you want to interact with the model by giving it text and um, images inputs. Yeah, I think that's it on the part of documentation. The rest you can go through it on your own. So now we'll hop into the project that I've done. So I'll just do a small demo. I hope you can see my screen. So this chat app that I came up with, and you can manage to like get prompts from it by asking questions, say, what is Gemini? And it will generate a prompt for you. Yeah, there. So it gives you a prompt stating what Gemini is, the name, and also the constellation Gemini is located near. Yeah, as in it's basically used to generate a prompt for you. It's just a text-based input with it. So now I'll jump into how I managed to achieve that. So first of all, I created a data package which has the model in it and also the Gemini API implementation in it. This is a data class called chat model, which has a prompt and a participant objects in it. So the prompt is what we're going to use to give prompts into the model so that it can return a response. And also the participants are the two participants that are going to interact with the model. That is you as a user when you're inputting, say, a prompt in the text field. And then there's the model, which is the model itself by which returns a response after giving it a specific input. And then we have the Gemini API implementation. Okay, this is not like the right way of say, what do you call it, to call the API key or choose the API key. Like I said earlier, you're supposed to store this API key in a secrets.cradle file or in local.properties file, and then call it by using build.config and then the name of that you've specified to call the API key. And then, so this is where we've declared the API key. And then, since the generative model performs input and output operations, you'll need to call it inside a suspend function called get prompt. which will enable you to get prompts from the chat model. And then we'll also generate the prompts by we'll generate the prompt by in a try and catch block, because sometimes when or when you're trying to get inputs, or when you're trying to say fetch data from an API or from a network, you might encounter some errors. So for the sake of exception handling, you need to call this generate context inside a coroutine scope, so that you so that as in usually when an app is running, most things run on the main thread. So when you use with context and the dispatcher.io, it with context it redirects the prompt that you're going to generate to a different coroutine scope, so that it can remove it from the main thread, and it will not abstract what is meant to be achieved in the main thread. So after doing that, the chat you'll the chat model you'll get a response, or you'll get a response from, and if let's say if you don't manage to get an response, it will return an error from that space from the model, because you're trying to get the your response from the model, the participant, which is the model. And then this catch block is meant to handle like the network issue, an error whenever you encounter issues in the network. Next, we'll go to the state view model. This is where I declared some of the states that we're going to get when interacting with the model. So these are this data class where you can either get where we've which we're going to use whenever the state is in an error state, and then success is going to give us or return data whenever the state is success of type T. And then we're going also to have a loading state and an idle state. That is when you just fire up the application, the first it's going to have an empty list. So most of the time, not most of the time, it's definitely going to be to have nothing, because you're not running any prompts, or you're not doing any operations with it. So at that point, it's in idle state. So it's going to have nothing whenever the state of the application is in the idle state. And then here we have the state model, which takes in an initial of type T. And then we've declared, I declared two variables, that is this state, which is a mutable state flow, and it initializes whatever the initial thing, the initial value that you give it, you give it. And then this state is just a read-only value, which is meant to observe whatever is happening in other classes. And then this function, first function update, it's used to update the state with the given value. And then this second function, it's used to, it takes in a block, which is a lambda function of type T, and it's meant to modify, then update the value. Okay, and then update and apply whatever, and apply the current state of the value whenever you run okay, whenever you're interacting with the application. Then next, we have the chat view model. This is where we're going to model how we want, or how our application is going to look like, or how our what do you call it, our screen is going to look like. First, we're going to have prompts. These prompts are what we get after, say, inputting text in the text field, and then responses that you get after you've after the model returns a successful response. And then we have the messages, which are of type UI listed, and they take in the chat model as an object, and we initialize it to the idle state, because when you first start the application, it will not have any data in it, so it's going to be in an idle state. And then here we're also going to have, after interacting with the application, you're going to have like a list of chats. So that's why we have this value called chats, which is of type list and takes in the chat model. And we initialize it to an empty list because, like I said, when you first interact with the application, it does not have anything in it. And then we're going to declare I declare two values, which is action enabled and is prompt enabled, which are of type Boolean. And the first one is meant to enable a UI element or a UI component whenever the prompt is not blank, and whenever the state in the UI whenever the state is not in a loading state. And this is prompt enable value is meant to it's meant to it's meant to get like messages whenever we're meant to get messages whenever the state is not in a loading state as well. And then we have this class chat view model, which implements the state view model, which I demonstrated earlier. And then it has it has 4 functions, which are meant to perform specific functionalities in the application. So the first function is meant to change a value whenever whenever a prompt has been executed, and it changes the value of that, or it changes the state of that specific it updates say the UI with the prompt with the value of the prompt that is being given. And this function on click submit, it basically takes in the send prompt function, which we will declare here because this is a private function. So the main aim of, or the functionality of this specific function, send prompt, is to, first of all, take the value that you give into the text input, the text input that you add, or that you add in the text field, and then it sends it. It adds it first, and then so it takes the value of the prompt that you give to it, and then it updates it in the UI. And then first, then in this view model scope launch, we need to get the result that we need to get a result from the model. So that's why we are running it inside this view model scope, which is a coroutine scope. And like I said earlier, whatever when you're dealing with input and output operations, you need to run it inside a coroutine scope, so that it can redirect the whatever is supposed to be generated from the network. It can remove it from the main thread, so it doesn't block whatever is meant to be done in the main thread with this specific function. And then after that, we update, this is meant to update the result that you get back from the model, and then it adds the result inside on the chart or on the screen. And then this other function, add chart, it basically adds the chart from a chart from the model. By first of all, yeah we first of all we get the value of, or we get the value of model of the response that you're supposed to get, or the value of the chart that you're supposed to get. And then that specific chart that you get from the model is added. Use this dot add extension function to add whatever you get from the model in the chart, and then you update the charts on the UI by using this specific function. So that's basically the business logic of this specific application. And then next we have, after doing all that, we need to update whatever we've done to our UI, and to update the operations to our UI. First, we have the chat screen composable, where we declare the states. And then we also have this chat screen content composable, which we call it inside the chat screen. And it has three parameters. We have the state, we have the on value change prompt, and we have the on click prompt. They all perform specific functions. This on value change prompt is used to change the value of the value of the outlined text field after after inputting a prompt in the text value or in the text field. And the on click submit is meant to listen to the button when you click on it, and then it updates the state of the UI. Then this is basically like the how the screen is meant to look like. I used a scaffold, and then inside the scaffold we have a column which is a composable function, which is basically used to align content inside inside a screen in a vertical manner. And then we have the animated content. And then inside this, I used a when statement to just to get the different state, to handle the different states that we're going to have whenever we interact with the model. So first, it checks whether the state is on error, is in an error state, and it updates the UI with a message that's generated with an error message that's generated from the error. And then this is also checks whether the state is in idle state, and if it's in idle state, it will show a message that or notify the user that the application is in an idle state. And also here I used we also check whether the screen or the application is in a loading state. If it's it's in a loading state, it's meant to show a progress indicator to notify the user that yes, you've sent a prompt, and it's currently loading, so that after it's currently loading to get the response from the model. And then here it checks whether the state is successful, and we get the state of the charts by assigning it to a value called chart. And then if the chart is empty, we okay the um, if the chat is empty, a message or a text that says empty is shown on the screen. And else if it's not empty, it will show like the inputs that you've gotten from the input that a user has sent to the model, and the response that a user will get from the model on the screen. And then this is basically a row composable which is used to align, which are used to align like the text field at the bottom of the screen. So we have this outlined text field. At the top here, I stated that there are these two functions, these two parameters that are we declared to perform specific functions. So this is where we're going to use it. So there's this on value change. So when you interact with the text field, and the value of the value of the text or the state of the text field changes, this the on value change prompt will be called. And also earlier when I was discussing about what I've done in the chart view model, there was this specific uh, value that I had declared here is prompt enabled. So this is where I used it. So to check whether whenever a user starts to interact with the application, so it will check or listen to the inputs that you're giving, so that you can enable the prompt that you give or that you input in the text field. And after that, this keyboard options, it's meant to listen to its function is to enable or to ensure that whenever you start interacting with the model, it will first of all capitalize the first word that you want to, or the first letter that you want when you start to interact with the model. And then here there's the icon button, which enables us to which listens to a click operation. That is after you've say added the input that the input that you wanted, or the prompt that you wanted to send to the model, so that it can give you a response, to listen to that. And then it will be enabled. The icon button will be enabled once you start interacting with the once you start entering any input in the text field, and it will be disabled when the text field is empty. So that is what's meant to that's why this is what this specific value is meant to do, just to check whether there's a text in the text field, so that it can be enabled and allow a user to send the text input to the model, okay, to the application, and then the model will respond with the desired response according to what a user has asked the model. Yeah, and then here there are just a few, just two components that I did to, yeah, can call them like the chat bubbles. Yeah, the chat bubbles, which I designed just to differentiate a chat from a user and a response from the model. Yeah. And one thing that I failed to mention is how to add the SDK to your application. So I added the SDK in the version catalog first. There's this generative AI SDK that you need to add so that you can be able um, to integrate or to implement the AI into your application. And then after declaring it in the version catalogs, you need to also add it as a dependency in the build.gradle file here. Yeah, this, the SDK. And then I also added the coroutines dependency to handle the IO operations from the model. Anything else that I may have failed to add? Yeah, I think that's it on my end. It was just a brief demo because we're supposed to was supposed to do it with someone else, but okay, but they didn't manage to show up for specific reason. So that's how I got to achieve what I have done. Yeah.
All right, thanks a lot, Jackie. That was an informative session. I liked how you walked people through the code. Android is not my forte, so I will go through the recording again just to internalize some of the concepts. I would
Mhm.
advise the attendees to do the same as well. But thanks a lot. That was well. Um, that was well. You were well prepared for the session, for lack of a
I
better
hope
word.
I have not given false stories.
No, you're
Anyway,
doing quite all right. Yeah, so we have a question here. I'm not sure if this is for you or for the other speakers. Speaking of LangChain, have you interacted with Motorhead?
okay, that I was not meant to cover anything to do with LangChain. That's
Yeah.
I think that is more of Marvin's area. Yeah, so I
Mm,
think you can save that question till
yeah.
Marvin.
Yes.
Yeah, for the
Okay.
session.
So we will share information of when the other speakers will be able to deliver what they're prepared for. Your apologies that wasn't able to be done like today, but thanks, Jackie, for stepping in and doing the session. So also want to go through people's responses on if you're a cartoon, which cartoon would you be? So when Kemi says Moana, Scooby Doo, that's an interesting one. Like, you want to be Scooby Doo? Like, I found Scooby Doo so spooky. I wouldn't want to be wherever he is. Too much drama. Juniper Lee, Jackie, you want
Ooh,
Violet. Juniper Lee and Kim Possible.
Juniper
Wow.
Lee. Wow, I remember Juniper Lee. I think that was one of my favorite
Yeah.
cartoons.
Yeah, it was really nice. Okay, Jerry. Okay. That's an interesting choice. Okay, cool. Thanks, guys. It's nice to hear the cartoons that you would be. We'll look for an interesting question for the next session as we get to the other speakers. But thanks a lot for joining today. And just as a reminder, we're doing all this just so that we can gear up towards the hackathon, which is upcoming, should be on the 16th, but we'll send concrete information on that via our different social media platforms and also on Bevy. So please look out for that and make sure you do participate. Um, Jack says she's a woman of culture. Okay. So thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks for joining. Do have a wonderful evening or day or morning, wherever you're joining from. I'll see you next time.